we're going to move on to the next topic, which is our take for 99. Okay, it's one of my favorite segments of all time here on the show, where we give you a very expensive take for a cheap price in all of sports. There's topics that we haven't got to cover yet, and we get to cover it now, right? And Zach, I want to begin here. Make sure y'all like, by the way, and subscribe to the channel. Okay. And I'm going to go into the NBA right now for this one. I think it's warranted where we at right now. I want to educate a couple people here. The CBA has saved the NBA. Okay. I repeat, the CBA has saved the NBA. Okay. As Adam Silver sat back and watched his product, just get messy. Okay. You're talking about declining ratings. You're talking about load management. You're talking about excessive player trade requests. You're talking about super team building. And my guy Adam Silver was just sleeping on the job, right? And I'm not gonna lie, it really got really tricky at one point. Okay. And now, the NFL created a big gap in popularity that the NBA is probably too far gone to come back from. However, I will give credit where credit is due. The CBA has saved the NBA. And basically what they're doing is attacking dynasties, right? And they're creating competitive balance right now amongst teams using, harsh luxury tax conditions, okay, to make sure you don't spend as much money. You have the introduction of the second apron, which is really attacking teams with high spending payroll habits, okay? And we're attacking you from within in those regards in pursuit of championships. For example, let me explain what that second apron is. If this existed last year, the Celtics would not have been able to add Drew Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis. And when you say that to me, therefore I say back to that, they probably wouldn't have won a championship if the second apron existed just this time last year. They wouldn't have won. Potentially. That's just my opinion. Okay. If you don't have Drew Holiday or Kristaps, okay? Now, if this existed last offseason, the Suns wouldn't have been able to add Bradley Beal. Okay? And now, picking up about the Celtics here, you got Tatum, who is making $315 million. He just got that contract. And when that kicks in, they're going to lose some guys. So, Zach, I would say to this, even though there was a lot of pressure on the Celtics, everybody said the Celtics got to be the one to win the championship this year. Congrats, they did. I could literally flip that back and say they got to do it again this year because they're going to lose some guys, okay? Because the NBA, the CBA is coming down. You ain't going to be able to pay everybody, right? And a lot of people thought that the Nuggets, they was going to build a dynasty. Oh, they're going to win. This is one of many. Jokic is the best player in the world. But they didn't. And you know what? They're actually playing it smart. They realize what's up ahead. And now they have this young youth movement pipeline around Jokic and Jamal Murray with guys like Christian Braun, who had finals minutes and who took a step forward after that this past season. They're ahead of the curve. They know they're not going to be able to spend. They know they're going to have a high payroll. So they're going to develop the youth. So this way, they can gel with Jokic and Jamal and have that experience so they can win, another championship down the road, okay? Now, people are saying, can the Celtics be a dynasty? No, it's not going to happen. Now, in today's modern game, dynasties are being attacked. Okay, the Bucks, okay, did they peak a couple years ago when they won a championship? Yes, they did. Brook Lopez is getting older. Chris Middleton is getting older now, okay? They're not going to win a championship right now. Okay, so my take for 99 is that the CBA has saved the NBA because they made it more competitive. And that's my take for 99.
Yeah, Lil, I like it a lot. And to be honest, this reminds me a little bit of a take I had for 99 a few weeks back about, dynasties really being dead in the NBA. And I do think you make some good points. Just because Boston won it last year, just like Denver, a lot of people are going to say, oh, is this a dynasty? Are we on the verge of seeing another one? And similar to the NFL, it could happen, but it's not likely because it's just so hard to bring all of those guys back. Now, Boston has all those guys under contract. going into next season, like you said. But I find it interesting too. Fans of our generation, and I'll be honest, for me, even though there's a ton you could criticize the NBA for, you mentioned them, like load management, players taking the regular season seriously or not. I will admit that I am a little bit more interested and dialed into the NBA these days compared to maybe 5 or 6 years ago, because
I agree.
There is parity. You don't know who's going to win. Like, I didn't love the fact that when the NBA season started, I knew, it was just going to be the Cavs and the Warriors, or, I knew the Miami Heat with their big three were going to make a run. Like, it is competitive, which is good, but then there are a lot of older fans that think the opposite, who are used to dynasties and, teams staying together, who would say, I want to see the same names because I want to see continued stories of years past. So I think it's interesting that based on what generation you're coming from, that could be where your preference comes in. But I think the parity is great for the league. Now, I don't even know if everyone would agree with that, because a lot of people are going to want to see the big market teams like Boston, like the Lakers, be prominent and get in those games. But I think from a pure competitive standpoint, this is good for the NBA. And I do hope one day the ratings reflect that. And I know those have been a little bit down, but I don't think it's because of the lack of parity or the increased parity. It's more because of the load management. It's more because of, besides LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant, we need to find that next guy that could kind of take the crown from them and be the next superstar player that everyone wants to watch. Maybe that could even be the guy I mentioned in Cooper Flag. But no, I think that's a good take, and I'm going to be curious to see with Kenny chiming in the new TV deal that was announced today. We'll see if that makes an impact as well.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to look into that TV deal thing. More into that, but as of right now, man, the second apron was created to attack teams from, being aggressive in pursuit of titles. And, you have to respect that parity, because a lot of people complained about, we are seeing the Cavaliers and Golden State every single year. You had the Miami Heat. Think about all those dynasties that won. They wouldn't have been able to win as much. The Warriors dynasty would have been over. Yes, they would have won with Steph Curry and Clay, but I'm talking about before they got Kevin Durant. Okay, because they probably wouldn't have got Kevin Durant in this era. Think about the magnitude of what is going on here and what is being eliminated from history, which is the dynasty, right? And I think when you look at, each team winning each year, right now, I believe the last, 4 or 5 teams won a championship, different teams won a finals, right? But you look in the NFL and you got the same old Kansas City Chiefs winning everything. Now, what if they win another chip and it's 3 straight years? Okay, it's fans in the NFL want to get frustrated by the Chiefs. Oh my God, they winning every single year. I'm off this, okay?
Well, let me ask you though, like, I see what you're saying, but the NFL is still super competitive, right? Like, I don't think the NFL is like the NBA was with the Warriors and Cavs.
It's competitive, but then again, how competitive is it if you have something that hasn't been done ever in the sport happen?
I mean, the Patriots, they won 3 and 4 years. Like,
they won 3 and 4 years, but they didn't win 3 straight. Now, I'm sorry, Zach. It's very competitive. But if Kansas City win another Super Bowl and it's 3 straight years, I mean, come on, bro. What are we doing here? Lamar Jackson, did you win a playoff game, bro? Another one? Like, what's going on? You choking still? Okay, like, I'm looking at these other quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, you unhealthy again? What's going? Josh Allen, you can't get over the hump, right? So many guys we could say the same thing about. He doesn't show up in playoffs. We always, and I understand this is a Pandora's box being open here. Dak Prescott, he doesn't show up. Yeah, I can say the same thing about Lamar. I can say the same thing about other quarterbacks, Josh Allen. Okay, even though he won a couple playoff games, I'll give him that. But he can't win the big one, right? There's so many things you can say about the same guys. But when all else fails, one guy is doing it. Yeah, I don't know about competitiveness. Okay, if that's going to happen again this year.
Okay, so when you say, though, in your take for 99, that would you say the CBA is saving the NBA, right? The second apron? Like, I don't think the NFL is in that same spot because it's the NFL. Like,
yeah, it's the NFL, of course. Yeah, we know they dominated, ratings right now. But I guess
and
my
even
point
for you personally, bro, like it's a drug. Like, we're never gonna stop the interest and stop watching.
Yeah, I get it. But what I'm saying, I guess my point by bringing them up was that, we talked about dynasties and it being eliminated from the NBA. But my point is, when you look in the NFL and we have a potential dynasty on the rise in Kansas City, especially if they win another chip, will fans get frustrated about that, or is it still important to the game? Whereas you come back to the NBA, the Chiefs will be that model. Is dynasties healthy for the game? Because I don't think the dynasties will be healthy for football and not basketball. I think it will be the same thing. If people want to see the same team win it, then it will be reflective in ratings. Oh, we want to see that team get beat, okay? Or we are tired of that team winning. So I think that could apply to this conversation with the NBA, because there's no more dynasties, and we don't know as of yet if that's what makes sports. If that's pulling in ratings, dynasties, because a lot of people complained about seeing the same teams win in the NBA.
Yeah, I just think in basketball, like, a big reason why me personally I was because I didn't want to go into a sport where it's like, oh, we know on the first day of the season who's going to be playing in the NBA Finals. And even when the Patriots were in their heyday, like, there was no guarantee that they were going to get there. And I think I feel the same way about the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Zach, the mic is yours.
All right, well, for my take for 99, I'm going to go into the NFL, and I'm going to hit on a little bit more of a general topic. And I actually wanted to talk about a rule change in the NFL that's going to be starting this year. And to be honest, I just don't think it's getting enough attention. And I think we need to talk about it more. And that is the new kickoff rule. And I think that this new rule change is going to have a major impact on not only the games this year, but the outcome of these games. And I just feel like we're not talking about it enough. I'll explain it, or I'll try my best to. For anyone who's not familiar with this rule change, they actually stole it from the XFL. And I was reading about it. Really, the priority of it is they want to try to bring back the kickoff return. We know that in the last few years, anyone who's watched the NFL knows this, like, the kickoff return is kind of dead. Like, every play is a touchback. It just seems like it's not really going on a lot. And when you turn on an NFL game this season, the start of that game with the kickoff, it's going to be much different than anything we've ever seen before. You're going to see the kicker by himself on his own 35-yard line. Then the other 10 members of his team, the kicking team, are going to be lining up on the opposing team's 40-yard line. Then the return team will have at least 9 blockers lined up in something they call the setup zone. That is between the 30 and the 35-yard line, with at least 7 of those players having to be touching the 35-yard line. And then there would be 2 returners allowed inside the 20. So you're going to have the kicker by himself on one side of the field, and then you're going to have basically everyone else kind of close in between the 40 and 35-yard line, with the 2 returners by themselves inside the 20. Now, the goal of this rule is to try to create more lanes for the kickoff returner and really bring us more action throughout the game. And I've actually seen some coaches and some teams talk about it, like, we're really trying to prioritize that kickoff return position. I know we saw that report a couple weeks ago about Justin Fields returning kicks for the Steelers. And a lot of people were thinking, like, man, Justin Fields, he's going to be returning kicks for the Steelers. Like, is he not playing quarterback anymore? Is his career just over? And I just think that even though that report dropped, the reason for that was because teams are going to prioritize putting their top playmakers at the kick returner position, because this new rule, we're going to have a lot of kickoff return touchdowns with it. Like, don't be surprised if the Dolphins are putting Tyreek Hill back to return kicks. Don't be surprised if the Vikings are putting Justin Jefferson back to return kicks. Even the Jets, they signed a guy in Tariq Cohen who hasn't been in the NFL for a long time.
I remember
but yeah, but they signed him because they want someone athletic and quick to return kicks, because they know that with this new rule, that position really needs to be addressed. So I think week 1 and even in the preseason, when we turn on NFL games, there are going to be a lot of fans watching and saying to themselves, like, what is this new rule? And why didn't I hear much about it in the offseason? But I do know a lot of coaches, a lot of GMs around the league are talking about it. And I think I had to bring it up on this show, because I think that the kick return is going to make a comeback in the NFL this season because of this new rule.
Now, are you in favor of? I don't think you really addressed that, if you're in favor of the change or not.
I mean, to be honest, it's hard to say until I really see it. You know, I don't know in the XFL, like, I saw it here and there, but I don't know. I just need to see it in real time first before I have a concrete opinion. But I just think it's interesting. Like, you rarely see a massive rule change like this come into the game. Like, we haven't seen it in a while. You remember after that brutal call in the NFC Championship game between the Saints and the Rams, remember there was like that couple month span, like, oh, pass interference is now reviewable. And it was just a total bust. Like, every play was getting reviewed for pass interference, and we came to a conclusion pretty quickly. Like, we don't need this. Like, it just takes up way too much time.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, you know, I think there are other rules that I think needed to be addressed more than this one. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll come back to that other rules, right? Because I think for this one, with the kickoff return, I'm still trying to figure out, you know, everything that you said. You know, I'm trying to play that in my head, map that out. But I could just say, you know, the kick return in the NFL was always a good part of the game. We understood that injuries, you know, came with that, right? But at the same time, like, I remember watching with my dad, I'll never forget this, when Deshaun Jackson in the Meadowlands had that kickoff return for a touchdown, completing that comeback. Like, that's memorable. Like, that's like when you say football, that's one of the plays I remember.
Yeah, how about Devin Hester in the Super Bowl?
Devin Hester, I was just about to bring him up. He made a Hall of Fame career off of kickoff returns. You know, so you talk about Tariq Cohen, he just got signed because, you know, he's explosive, and, you know, that rule wasn't there implemented. He probably wouldn't have been signed because of all the injuries that he accumulated the last couple of years. He missed a couple of years of action, hasn't even played in a couple of years. That's giving somebody a job. So I right now, based on just looking at it from that perspective, until I see it, I could only take positives away. Obviously, injuries are injuries. It's the NFL. Guys are going to get hurt. And obviously, that's going to be risk with these kickoff returns. But I do think also, on the contrary, that there are other rules that could be changed that I think needs to be addressed. For example, the fumble out of bounds. You know, that's a touchback. That's a horrible call. We seen what happened with the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. We seen what happened to the Chiefs in the Buffalo Bills game. It almost cost them their season as well. If Stephon Diggs knew how to catch the ball. Okay. You know, you got that one in the PI.
Can I throw one more? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me throw one more. I think roughing the passer needs to be reviewable, because that play, it's either a sack or a first down and a 15-yard penalty to the other team. Like, if a ref screws up that call, I think roughing the passer needs to be reviewable, because I've seen so many times BS roughing the passer calls that just affects the game when it shouldn't.
And I agree. I think a lot of that has to do with certain guys getting certain calls, you know, with equity. You know, oh, don't hit Patrick Mahomes. Flag. You know, don't even breathe in this vicinity. Okay, flag. You know, it happens. But I think one more call that I would change is, I'm not sure how I feel about spot fouls anymore with the PI. You know, I think it should be like college, 15 yards, because like it's hard to play defense in today's modern game, and to be a spot foul, especially off a deep ball, and let's say that happens in the end zone, you're on the 1 yard line. I mean, you're going to score more than likely, right? You're going to give up points on that drive more than likely, right? So I think 15 yards makes a lot of sense to me, you know, instead of spot fouls. Like, that's actively shifting games as well, you know, so 15 yards should be the thing for me. So I think there's other, you know, calls that could have been shifted. You even got the one that they changed recently, the drop tackle joint as well. That's another rule that they changed as well. The NFL, the one thing I would say about the NFL, for good or for worse, is that it doesn't wait like Adam Silver sleep on a job to take care of the sport. They always make changes even when they're on top, and that's why the NFL will continue to be on top.
Yeah, just my last counter. Like, I think I've said this before on the show. I think it was actually a take I had for 99. I think right after that Chiefs-Bills game, actually. I love the fumble out of bounds rule, because I think it gives the defense a little bit of an advantage when the offense has all the other advantages in the game. I like the fact that the defense, I like prioritizing. Like, you can't just reach the ball with one hand or try to reach the ball with one hand over the goal line without a possible penalty. Like, we know the rule, if an inch of the ball crosses a pair of the goal line, it's a touchdown. You don't need your whole body or the whole ball. I like the fact that preaches you need to be secure with the ball around the goal line, or else it could really cost you.
I mean, I agree, like to a certain extent, about giving the defense like some type of advantage, but at the end of the day, the offense is going to get the ball, and the offense is so predicated on the advantages. Whereas that play, that DPI that I talked about being 15 yards, that's giving the defense more of an advantage because you're not giving them a spot foul and putting them in an awkward spot. So I think that would attack that issue more. Okay, how do we make the league balance? It's an offensive-minded league. The offense have a lot of advantages, and we talked about it. Roughing the passer is not reviewable. That's a advantage for the offense. Other stuff is advantages for the offense, right? How do we help the defense out? Because at the end of the day, they got to eat too. Well, okay, how about we make one of the most controversial calls in DPI, instead of it being a spot foul, 15 yards?
Yeah, we'll see. I think the NFL likes having some differences from the college game, but yeah, I'll harp on it. I love that out of bounds rule. It just changes the game. It brings so much thrill, you know.
I got you, Zach. I got you. And ladies and gentlemen, that closes another successful episode of 99 Pod. And before we depart, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you follow me on the next live that I'm about to do in another 15 minutes, talking some boxing. Zach, it was a good show, and I'm looking forward to the next one, of course.
Absolutely, man. And Lil, enjoy the next show, man. You're a machine. Keep grinding, and I'm sure we'll be back at it next week.